Welcome to our series on Ignatian wisdom. Today I'd like to talk about a lesson that I learned personally from a Jesuit by the name of Walter Chizik. Walter Chizik was born in 1904 in the East Coast. He was from parentage, I believe, Ukrainian, and he knew the Eastern languages, Slavic languages, very well as he's growing up. He went through Jesuit training. And in 1930s, volunteered to go to the missions in those days in Eastern Europe, which had at that point come under Soviet control. Some of those countries before World War II. And so he went to that area, was ordained in Rome, and was missioned to Eastern Europe to minister to Catholics in those countries that were under persecution. Well, make a long story short, as World War II happened, back and forth, he was in occupied territory for a while by the Nazis, and then eventually when the Soviets, won the war in that part of the country, part of the world, he was under Soviet government for a while. And when he was there, he was sent to the Soviet Union. They found out he was a priest. He was sent to a labor camp and spent a number of years in Siberia, inside one of the gulags. Again, being faithful, trying to minister as best he can through his own example, his own knowledge of Scripture, the sacraments if he can, those people who he met in the gulags who may have been Catholic, bolstering their faith. For many years, we thought that he had died. We had not heard from him. We said the Jesuits in the West, in the United States, and had given him up being for death. But in 1963, when there was an exchange of spies between the East and the West over the bridge of Berlin, Father Chizik was released by the Soviets in exchange for a Soviet spy that we had captured. And so he had came to the West in 1963. He was given some time off, certainly, to kind of regroup and rejuvenate himself. But then he was involved in retreat ministry in the East Coast. And what I want to mention today, what struck me personally, I've never met him, he died in 1980, but he would travel around the country giving retreats. And he'd go every year to a retreat center in Sacramento and give a weekend retreat at this retreat center for women. When I spent time in Sacramento, I met this family whose mother knew Father Chizik from those retreats. And the mother was a widow and had between 7 to 10 children, being widowed, and had met Father Chizik during those years, 1960s, and developed kind of a friendship. And one day, the member of that family who I knew, who I taught with at Jesuit High in Sacramento, showed me a packet of correspondence that the family had saved from Father Chizik to this my friend's mother-in-law, who has since died. I was very moved reading his letters that he'd write on small slips of paper, as if he's still in prison, kind of husbanding, taking care of every scrap of paper he could find. But every year he'd write to this particular widow to give her encouragement, to give her some sort of to encourage her faith, and especially during the tough times that she had raising this large family. I was very struck by, in reading those, although there weren't a lot of autobiographical details in these particular note cards and letters, but how this person who has spent so many years in a prison camp in the Gulag, yet could find time to encourage this young widow with all these children and to give her hope. Really kind of, he could spend a career, I'm sure, going around the country lecturing about his experiences, but yet that cur personalis, that care for that one person, I was very moved by that, and I'm still continue to be moved by that. Father Chizik, his cause is up for canonization. I hope pretty soon he'll be declared a blessed, but he certainly is a hero. Born 1904, died 1984, I believe, 80 years old. The same lifespan that Karl Rahner, the famous German Jesuit theologian, had. Born the same year, died about the same time. But Walter Chizik is certainly a giant of that particular generation. And what struck me was his particular care for this one widow and how much his letter writing, his contact, gave her hope and encouragement during a particular trying time in her life. So thank you very much for listening today.